Hello. So Troy and I went for a walk this morning and we found this beautiful waterfall here just down the road from where we're staying. And as I was thinking about kind of what waterfalls symbolize in the spiritual life, I was reflecting on how before we left town, Troy and I decided to go to confession the night before we flew out. And we did that because we really wanted to be sure that our souls were as clean and as pure as possible to enter this trip, that we could start with a clean slate, that we could really be open to all that God wanted to do in our marriage on this trip, that we could allow God's grace, that living water, to flow through us as purely and as beautifully as possible, so we could deepen our marital bond, so we could deepen our love for one another, deepen our love for God, and come back renewed. And this waterfall is kind of like God's grace flowing through us. And when we put these big boulders, those big rocks in the way, which is like symbolic of sin in our life, the water can't flow as freely through us. God's grace can't flow as freely through us, and therefore we're not able to fully live authentically the life that God wants to live. His grace can't flow through us as powerfully and as beautifully. It still tries to kind of make it. Let me show you here if I can flip this around. Well, here. So if you've ever seen a waterfall, which probably most of you have, you'll notice that the water will kind of come down in any way it can. It will find little places to seep through, and then there's usually one main area that it all flows through. But that's kind of like God's grace in our life. Like, His grace wants to flow through us, and God will find a way to allow it to flow through us, however He can do that. But it's up to us to remove the big rocks, the big boulders, the sin in our life, so it can flow as freely as possible. And we can be a light to the world, we can be a light to others, and allow Him to work through us. He wants to use us as His instruments in the world. And especially for those of you that are married, if you have sins in your life that you need to confess, if you need to get back to the sacrament of confession, do that for the sake of your spouse, for the sake of yourself, for the sake of your family, so you can allow God's grace to flow through you. And you can also then tap into the grace of the sacrament of marriage. And the one sacrament opens up the other sacrament to even flow more freely. So there's just a little reflection for the day. Beautiful waterfall. Bye.